your political theater to Texas.
This is not about political theater.
And it was more political theater than anything.
It's nothing more than pure political theater.
It's pure political theater.
Welcome, everybody, to a Saturday stream. This is it's a special episode today of Political Theater. I've been sitting with a lot in me, and we'll get into why. But I wanted to talk through a lot of the emotions and the feelings and the ideas that have been flowing around, us learning this week that former Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, murdered his wife and then took his own life while his children were in the home. This has sparked a lot of conversation. This has sparked a lot of debate. This has sparked a lot of anger. This has sparked a lot of things. And those of you that watch the show and watch me and follow me on social media already know how I think about things. But be sure when you come in to hit the like button, especially if you're on YouTube. It does affect the algorithm. Be sure to share on your socials that we are live and we're having this conversation, because I do have a very special guest that I want to bring to this show. Patrick Schaefer. Oh man, what could I say about this guy? I've known him a third of my life. He is somebody that I respect, admire, feel honored to know, be honored to call friend. I love him dearly, deep. And we've worked together in the past. We've done podcasts and things before. So I'm happy that he agreed to come on the show today to have this conversation with me. Patrick Schaefer is an author and a theologian, and he recently obtained his master's in philosophy, and I am so proud of him. You don't have no idea, because he's so smart. He's one of the smartest people that I know, and so I am actually really happy to bring him to the stage so that we can have this conversation. But first of all, I'm going to make sure that we look decent. As everybody knows, this is live and I do all my own stage managing. So, but everybody just clap it up for, or Howard, put a 1 in the chat, whatever, for Patrick. Thank you.
No,
Say something.
I should thank you.
I know. I thank
for letting
you.
me come. I'm glad to be here. I was feeling some kind of way that you never invited me to come, so I invited myself on, and I guess it's a great time for us to have our conversations that we have all the time.
Too soon for the ones. I don't know. We maybe give him a 2 because now
I'm glad to be here. And let me start off by saying, before we get deep dive into stuff, thank you for helping and being a companion to me along my journey and formation and transformation. You have been a North Star. You and a lot of other Black women who are scholars have been a North Star to me. And when I needed to bounce some stuff off of you, when I needed you to read something, when I needed you to help me format something, you just always made yourself available to me, and I am forever grateful. So thank you so very much, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just want to say to folks, I guess I have to get this out, and we'll get, we're going to talk about a bunch of things, but, as someone who is associated with Black feminism, particularly modern Black feminism in the 21st century, we are often pegged as women who hate men, particularly Black men. And I actually don't care anymore that people say that, because I'm too old to care what strangers think of me. But at the same time, there are men like yourself that I can look to and say, that's a good brother. And I actually don't even want to use the caveat of good. I just want to say that's a brother. Because if I call you a brother, it means that we are in community, that we are family, that we are loving each other in that way, that we are in this space, in this struggle together, right? I think of the Combahee River Collective when they say, we are in the struggle with progressive Black men. We are here together. We are fighting this together, particularly the ones who understand the gender lens, right? And we had a conversation recently where you asked me, you're like, do you hate men? And
I think did I ask you, did you hate men or did you hate me? It was
no,
either
you
one
said
of the
men.
men.
You said men.
Yeah. And
because my response was like, no, you know, I was a little taken aback, but
yeah, no.
Tell people what prompted that for you.
I wanted to have a conversation with you because Black feminist theory and scholarship are all a world that I visit. And I visit it through people like you who write and engage and talk. And there's not often, to me, has been a space where Black men can find their place within or in community with Black feminist scholarship. Because when we see you, not just you, but Black feminists, if you are, you know, on Twitter or if you are on Facebook, the critique can be pretty harsh. And I'm a Black man. And I, you know, it's like, I don't feel like I'm your enemy. I'm not your enemy. I am supportive. And how I find myself intellectually in the space with you that supports your Black feminist ideals and yet is not weaponized against me is something that, like, you have to talk me through that. And so my conversation was probably, you know, in a lot of ways, a lot of men would not ask that because they would be like, "You go ahead, have your space." Clearly, you know, you hate me. But I wanted to have a conversation, and I started the conversation with that question on purpose because I was like, "Well, let's bridge this divide or this kind of bridge. Let's cross it together." And I think the conversation we had immensely helped me understand your critique, which is rational, which is fair, but also allows me to at least be in space with you, and not feel like how you live and how you think is weaponized against me.
Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Hall, who's usually here. Also another brother that I think of in the same way, right? Like, again, highly intelligent men who have the intellectual curiosity to ask those questions, to kind of sit in the discomfort. There's another brother I'm trying to get on later. He said something today about, like, you know, as a Black man who is doing this work, yes, I understand the critique, but I'm also a human being. So it does hurt to kind of hear when people are saying it. I know it's not me, but I am a Black man. And I hold space for that 100%. So I've actually, I think I've gotten nicer in my, some people think I've gotten harsher. I actually think I've gotten nicer because I understand that. And I don't ever want any brother, using that intentionally, I don't ever want any brother in my life to think that I hate him. I don't hate men. I hate patriarchy. I hate European patriarchy specifically, and the construction of manhood and masculinity that it has forced upon Black men who in antiquity, we're talking thousands of years, never acted like this. Never acted like this, right? And we can study it. The literature is there, documentation is there. We had community, we were in harmony. Women were valued. The imposition of European patriarchy through enslavement, through tyranny, through Jim Crow, through everything, right? Media, everything that they forced, right? Shifted. And it's not just Black men, Asian men, Middle Eastern men, Latino men, indigenous men, all of these groups that come from cultures where women were once respected and valued as equal contributors to their communities, now all embrace this kind of colonizer mindset that men are above women by virtue of being men. That's the critique I have. because I understand, as many of our scholars of all genders who are deeply rooted in kind of this African way of being understand we're best together. We are.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
But and I think the tension and the struggle, I think that's what's coming to the surface right now, is a lot of sisters are asking, how do we be in community with people, with men who have embraced this violent way of being towards us? Like, how do we do that? And I think for decades, this is a question that women like myself and my foremothers have had. We love you. We love you because you are us. You are our fathers, our brothers, our sons, our friends, our community members, our uncles, everybody. We love you. But how do we make sure that that love doesn't cover for the harm that we experience? And I think that's one of the toughest things that a conscious Black woman has to deal with, right? Because we know we have to solve the problem, right? We have to get to the root of it before we can solve it. And if someone like myself can say, hey, I'm pointing right to it. It's this. Brother, I need you to let this go. Sister, I need you to let this go. They, them, friend, I need you to let this go. And we're struggling to let that go because hundreds of years of psychological warfare and conditioning won't allow us to do so. So how do we navigate that tension, right? That's the question. That becomes the question.
Yeah. And I think our generation has been given a deep responsibility. And it seems like we're fighting a few battles on a lot of fronts. I don't think that we can fight it with each other between Black men and Black women and we win, whatever that prize is. And so while we have to sit in the tension about harm that is done and about critiquing systems that we all were born into, I think we don't talk about love publicly enough.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think that when all we do is talk about the harm and we critique each other about this is what you do and this is what you don't do, and this is what you should say and this is what you have not said, and never remind each other that our critique is born out of a deep love and a deep yearning for connection with one another, and whatever issue is between us is the issue. I'm not your enemy, and I want all my sisters to know that all Black men aren't your enemy, and men by default aren't your enemy. And yes, I'm not I'm not being an apologist for all Black men or some Black men at all. What I'm stating is the reality of the fact that my life and my very existence is not a weapon against you. But
how does a woman know that without knowing you?
Yeah. I think it's our responsibility as men to be.
And make sure you stay in the mic, because when you go back, it gets a little bit lower. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's our responsibility as men to foster these kinds of conversations and connections with women we are in community with. There are some men who may not have the reach to talk to all women, but there are women in your life that you can have these conversations with and foster an environment whereby you don't feel coming into my presence puts you at a disadvantage or you could be harmed. I believe that when we are really in love with one another, we are connected with one another, people become places and spaces for us. And if I can become a safe space for the women that I love and they can become a safe space for me, then I think we begin to kind of chip away at kind of this public discourse that I think sometimes gets very toxic and it's ugly. And perhaps it needs to be for a minute for us to kind of see through our way to getting towards one another. But I never think that the issue is more important than the person. That yes, there are issues that we need to work through, but you are more important to me than what we are discussing and what we are we are having conversations about, and I don't think we communicate that enough.
And I think what you're speaking to is humanity that has been stripped, again, I have to say, centuries of torture, psychological warfare, abuse by people who trafficked us, by people who made legislation that dehumanized us. We, in many ways, have lost sight of the humanity of each other, right? And so I think a lot of that work is internally reclaiming our humanity, right? A man said to me earlier, he said, you have such an inflated sense of self. I said, my sense of self is through the stratosphere. Every day I wake up thinking I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. I love myself deeply. I wish more brothers did, right? Because I have, and as somebody, as a social worker and stuff like that, most of my clients that I serve were Black men, Black and brown men. And one thing that was just a recurring theme for me was the lack of self-love. And I had to say to myself, well, it was never cultivated in them. And I think I took that with raising my son, right? Like I was pouring love into him, like almost overcompensating, like just love yourself. You are great. This was excellent. Every little thing. Oh my gosh, so amazing, baby. You are wonderful. Like love yourself, have pride in yourself. Like, and I think that a lot, especially in our generation, I think a lot of brothers did not get that. Like they didn't. Of course. Right. And so I think sisters we recognize that, right? So what ends up happening? We feel like we're the ones who need to pour that into you. And often, I'm not gonna say all again, because I don't like doing that not all shit because it's pedestrian. But I think that there are a lot of Black women who recognize that in Black men and feel like we've got to be the ones to pour into you because we recognize that maybe you don't have enough of that. And I wonder the detrimental impact that has had, because again, this intervention of this thing, this tyranny, this warfare, this torture, this abuse, this like systematic effort to separate us at every turn, right? It's hard to like bridge that. And I've heard sisters over the years say, just meet me halfway. Just meet me halfway. I got to come into your house to bring you that love. Can you just step out the door? Meet me at the doorstep and maybe bring something with you there. Some affirmation. Can we exchange affirmations? And this is something that I tell sisters all the time. So you got to tell that man, if you love him, you love him. It don't matter what your relationship is, because sometimes we get caught up in the romantic stuff and I'm not even thinking about that. I was like, when was the last time you told this brother that you love him? Every time we get off the phone, we talk about I love you, right? Like, I don't ever want to end a conversation with you not hearing from me that I love you, So on the other side of that, man, like we're smart people. Like we read, we study, we have a certain level of enlightenment. I'm not trying to be funny, but I also know that that's part of it, right? This intellectual curiosity, this enlightenment, this expanded mind, this ability to even have a conversation like this is not accessible to all of our people. And that angers me too.
Yeah. There was so much tending to that we did not get through our formative years. And when we look at ourselves as a people, of course we weren't tended to, we weren't nurtured, we were not developed. And so when we come and we bring ourselves to our relationships, we are most fractured. And I think we have become more transactional in our relational scope. And I absolutely hate that. And yet, I've been, it's what I do, right? I've been reading Kierkegaard more lately. And Kierkegaard says that you cannot come fully into who you are until you have loved. Not be loved, but the act of loving itself. That I come into who I am by having you in my life. And I'm of this idea, playing around with this idea that our lives are made up of like many loves. And
of course. But you've been saying that.
I know, I have.
Been saying that.
Yeah. And so as we get older, we mature, become more intellectually curious, become more scholarly. However, I think we also have to remind ourselves that it is important that the people we are in community with that we tell them we love them. For the first reason is that we get older and know that how unpredictable life is, and I don't know when my last conversation with you is going to be. And so if we're going to part each other's presence, I want the last thing to be, hey, remember, if I don't get a chance to tell you again, I love you and we are in love, that this isn't transactional, this isn't tertiary, this isn't shallow, this is connection. And I think that is so important for us to do that. And so I agree with you that we have to set in the tension of how do we love and come into formation and come into our own self and our own identity. And yet I can't do that unless you allow me to. And it is the most vulnerable act that we could do. But I think it's important.
No, it is. How does one do that? Thinking of Black girlhood, thinking of, I have to, the gendered lens of this, the misogynoir, the abuses, things like that. When we know that it's estimated that 1 out of 2 Black girls is sexually abused before she turns 18. When we know that Black women are killed 3 times as likely, more often than white women by an intimate partner. When we know in 2023, 773 Black women were murdered. Most of them, like over 90%, were by someone they knew, right? In the context of this kind of intimate partner violence. When we know, from myself, my first incidence with sexual abuse was age 4, right? And I've had several over the years, and I'm not alone. There's many of us are like this. Many of us have the same story. Brothers too, right? But the gender issue doesn't always allow brothers to acknowledge that, hey, you were 13, she was 25, that was abuse, kind of thing, right? Sure. With the people that have been through so much, right? It's like generational. We carry this and, spiritually trying to release ourselves from that. But specifically for Black women and girls, sexualized starting at age 10, just walking outside, right? We hear the street harassment. When did it start? Between ages 10 and 12, right? Grown men sexually objectifying you. You become aware that your body is a sexual object in the eyes of men. And then if you are fortunate enough to go away to college, right? Ever since colleges went co-ed, the sexual assault on campuses went through the roof, right? And then if you're lucky enough to find a man and you love him and you marry him and all those things, and then he starts beating your ass. But everybody tells you to pray about it. Just give him a chance. It'll be all right. Because you heard from your parents growing up when they used to beat you that they were doing it out of love. So now when your man does it, and he tells you, I wouldn't do this if I didn't love you, you believe it. And then you break free of that, and then you find another one, and he does the same thing. And throw in a few rapes in there, right? And when I say a few rapes, I say it casually like that because the reality is that Black women, on average, have experienced multiple rapes in their lives, right? How do we go with all of that? And I'm just going to use you because you're right here. I go to you, and you say, I'm safe. Trust me. Believe me. How do I do that?
Yeah.
And I don't expect you to have the full answer, but it's like these are the questions where we're thinking existentially. We're like, we're on some philosophy shit. You want to bring in Kierkegaard, my nigga? Let's go.
Right. Yeah. No. And I don't feel any pressure to have a description for that.
They're loving it. I don't know if you can see the chat. They're loving it in the chat. Thank you, everybody. Keep the comments coming because we have to have these conversations. So they're loving it in the chat. I appreciate you for everything that you're sharing.
Yeah, no, I'm not moved to try to find an answer for that. I am more fascinated by how you describe it. Yeah. And let me give you another description to add to this and muddy this a little bit.
Before you go, your girl Hartman, she talks about this is the identity of the Black woman. This is what we are. It's a site, our body is a site of violence.
Oh, absolutely. She writes about it extensively in scenes of subjection. And so I've spent a lot of time with Hartman and her analysis and her narrative around it. And I am still observing, I'm still learning. And again, having these conversations, you bring me into a reality that is beyond my own. And so I want to also add and muddy this a little bit. is that growing up as a boy, corresponding to girls who were my own age, when you were little girls, they were telling you men only want you for one thing, you know, and you got the, you know, you were taught inherently that there's something valuable in your body that a man wants that you have to protect, and that's all boys want.
And it's so primary. That's the primary value you have. It's primary,
yes. Right. On the other end, how my parents raised me, I didn't know y'all had anything valuable. I didn't know. Like, I knew one day, you know, you look at a girl and you saw how beautiful her eyes was when you was 12. And you're like, oh, this is I'm thinking that's about as value. I don't know what else you got.
You want to tell the people why? You want to tell the people why?
You could go ahead and then I'll co-sign because you make me thinking.
Well, first of all, I gotta show you. Hold on, it's not letting me do it. So wait, it's not. I gotta do it the right way. Hold on, let me share because this is my favorite. My favorite thing about Patrick Schaefer is he saved my life. I'm not even bullshitting y'all. He saved my life. Hold on, y'all gotta see this book. Hold on. Hold on. Look at this. Look at this beautiful purple. First of all, he loves Prince, like me.
That's one of our foundations.
That's one of the ways that we connect with each other. But also, he wrote this book called Love Again. Here we go. Love Again. And this book, oh my goodness. What can I say? He wrote this book. He experienced divorce, and the way he frames, you know, divorce as like how we think about it as we grieve when people die, like you go to, you know, funerals and things like that. And before that, I'd never thought about grieving the end of a relationship, right? And this comes at a time when I'm divorcing my husband. I'm, you know, just like, what the hell or whatever. Like, this is when we came into each other's life. This is how long I've known Patrick. And first of all, he writes so well, so beautifully. He brings us into his world and he shared so much about himself. But this book reframed how I thought about love itself and how people show up in our lives. And as you can see, it said a spiritual memoir because my beloved Patrick spent many years of his life as a pastor. Yeah, with a heathen friend like me.
Absolutely.
and was kind of raised right in the church. Am I correct in saying that you were raised in the church, right? Yeah, like your parents were also pastors, right? I believe.
No, they weren't pastors.
Okay, but they were heavily involved. Might as well have been, right? Yeah. And from a young age, honestly, relatively, you were in like the church and then rose in leadership, and then you had your own church in the South Side of Chicago.
Yeah.
I went to your church.
Yes, you did.
Your church is the only church I've been to in the last 20 years.
I believe you.
I don't want them setting on fire. I was a little nervous that day. And then I go in, guys, and he does a sermon when he's talking about people drunk texting him. And I had drunk texted him the night before, and I was like, oh, man. That tells you, but here's the reason why. But I mean, let me just let people know and be for real. The reason why I went to this church is because this is a man who sees sex workers as human beings. This is a man who was doing outreach and support for people living with HIV and AIDS. This is a man who was taking the word and the work of, you know, Jesus and actually applying it in the ways that mattered, right? He was not on some fire and brimstone nonsense. He was not condemning people. You know, he was different. And I would always tell people, if there was any church I would actually go to, it would be his. That's it.
That's
as much as I
compliment. No, that's a great compliment. But it look, I don't think that the work.
Because this is going to segue into what I want to talk about next. That's why I have to say all this.
Yeah. No, but let me just say this also is that I'm not in the pastorate anymore.
Yeah.
And yet I am a theologian, and what I see in Christ is that he was a great emancipator of women. He was a great protector of women, and he was a humanist. And I think he understood the complexity of our human experience, and that there's a plurality of expressions. And the more I dove deeper into the humanities, the more I began to see and celebrate that kind of diversity. And I see all of that in Christ. Now, the religion we create around him is very different from what is central to how I understand Jesus and his mission about being benevolent, about those who are marginalized, bringing them in and creating community and all those different kind of things. And so that was always the vantage point. And I understand more now than I did then. I kind of understood it then, that really doesn't have a space within mainstream Christianity, that, you know, it doesn't, it doesn't jive with reaching out to the other and those who have been othered and making them a part of the community. And I understand how my religious upbringing weaponized me against people who do not believe, think, pray like I did, and or understood Jesus the way I was taught to understand Jesus. And to this end, they also taught me how to understand gender and gender roles and sexuality and human sexuality and sex. And I understand how complicated that was, because then you mix in, you know, demons and spirits and all that. It just gets way
well, you know, your guy, what's his name? Carlton Pearson, right? Peterson, yeah. That you always talk about him. Yes. And people said he was like a heretic, you know.
Just for broadening his theology to encompass everybody, to make sure no one was lost. They thought he was evil because of that. But I see that in Jesus. And again, if we look at it in that way, that's what got him killed, right? This extension of yourself to the other. And so there's sacrifice to be made. But that was the base of my theology. And so here it is too. So let's go back, is that from scripture, I can read the scripture and tell me that there's glory in a woman's hair, right? It talks about her body in Solomon, about her shoulders, about her breasts, about her lips, about her neck, and all of these things that patriarchy in scripture points out that women have inherent value in their bodies. But there was all boys in my household. They didn't teach me that I had any value in my body. They didn't teach me that there was, there was more to a girl than her long hair, her eyes, or whatever. And so if we're playing in the park and all of a sudden she looks cute to me, I don't know if there's anything more. And yet she may be being socialized or theologized to think that I want something from her that I don't even know she has. What? Like, you only want, what's the one thing? Nobody talked to me about whatever the one thing all men want from women. And so I think that we're all groomed to be suspicious of one another.
Well, okay, because you got to situate that in this influence of European patriarchy, because European patriarchy mandates that women are debased, that children are debased, that they are treated as property, that they are assets that are acquired merely to prove manhood and dominance. And so when we talk about how we treat each other, I have to remind y'all that men have set the tone. Patriarchy has set the tone violently, right? Through wars, using weapons, using force, using physical abuse, using these things. So when they say that, well, why do the women go along with it? Why wouldn't they go along with it? Didn't you go along with your parents said when they beat you behind? You learn after a while to act a certain way and to follow rules if you've been structured through these things. If I go this way, I'm gonna get popped in the mouth. Let me go this way. If I do this, I might get grounded for a week. Let me go this way. And so the women are also shaped to uphold these patriarchal standards, and often to uphold them by we try to convince ourselves that we're winning, we're girl bossing. No, you're just playing into the patriarchy. You just happen to be making money off of it, right? But you're not doing anything to push against it. So like, I don't like when people kind of finger point at women. It's like, well, the women are doing it too. Yeah, where did we learn it from?
Sure.
And so I think about that, but also I get frustrated with women because the same way I get frustrated with Black people. If you see white people not washing their asses, why y'all not washing your ass? You know better. Wash your behind. Just because they didn't do it, just because they were riddled by plagues and sewage and didn't know how to bathe until the Africans and the Arabs taught them, that don't mean that you got to do it too. And so I get mad at like women because I'm like, yes, I understand. Now with white women, they're taught literally from the time they come out the womb to hate themselves. And I've talked to enough white women to know this. This is a consistent thing for them. They are taught from birth to hate themselves and to be subservient to the men in their lives, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Black women are not necessarily taught that from girlhood, though. Yet, through various acts of violence throughout our lives, through the media, through all these kinds of things, through the doors shutting in our faces, we actually start to learn to bend to it. And in my opinion, the biggest thing is the religion. It's the religiosity. It is what a lot of people, they're not going to churches like yours. They're not. They're going to the churches where the women are not allowed to have leadership positions, where the pregnant women can't sing in the choirs, where the women if their skirt is too short, they have to cover it with a cloth of some sort. They're going there where they're seeing the women laboring in the back kitchens preparing all the food, but they don't get a vote in things. They're going to these ones where the male pastors are spending so much time telling the women how they need to be a wife, but saying next to nothing to the men on how to be a husband, right? That's what they're coming up in, right? This whole the wife submits to the man because the man submits to God thing. This is one of the main things they're taught. Submission is forced. Submission is seen as being honorable to God. Submission to a man. Why the man, right? Like, so so we are learning this, Black women especially, because the majority of Black women in this world are Christian. Mm-hmm. They're learning this from early on, right? 80% of people are the religion of their parents. They're learning from early on. You are less than. You're second to the boy next to you. You're second to the man. As you become a woman, you're going to be second to the man next to you. Your job to be considered holy, to get into heaven, to win God's favor, is to be subservient to the men in your life, to follow their lead and stick with it. Divorce is not an option. You got to work it. You're not praying enough. He wouldn't have hit you if you prayed more, right? These are the messages. So I got to bring in this from you. I know that you're different, but let's be honest about this. Brother, we just saw this whole thing. What with the shackles lady? Yeah. The shackles lady. What's her name?
Tina.
Okay, Tina, right?
Yeah.
Saw that clip, her screaming, upset, like furious, broken from this man.
Yeah.
Mistreating her, cheating, emotionally abusing, all this stuff, all these years. And he files a divorce, right? And so her stuff is on blast. And she said, I didn't leave because of God. I didn't leave because God wants me to stay and work it out. Let's apply this to intimate partner violence, Patrick. What role is this religion and this or what people believe the religion is, right? What they've learned is playing into the proliferation of domestic violence in our communities. We do have the highest rate of intraracial domestic violence and intimate partner violence. This is a fact.
Yeah.
How is connect the dots for me, family?
No, look. Here's what I can be is as descriptive as I've understood it to be, and a large part of this comes out of conversations that I've had, running conversations that I've had with my mother. And one of the things my mother talked to me about, a couple of situations where she was young, she said she remembered being in church on a Sunday morning and someone's husband would come and snatch her out of church in the middle of service. And he could come in drunk, angry, high, and he would snatch her out of service and wouldn't nobody move. And the idea was that's his wife. and that ain't none of your business. The church has been complicit, and religion itself has been complicit in creating harmful conditions for women that makes their world unkind. It makes their world abusive and traumatic, and we cannot look past that, and we can't heal it until we, diagnose it. She also tells me, back in the 1950s, 60s for her, 60s, maybe early 70s, was that she had a friend and she got pregnant and they put her out to church. And my mom and some of her friends would steal canned goods out of their home and meet her on the corner to make sure she had food. And when the baby came, give her money to make sure she had clothes and whatever she needed. Now, the person that impregnated her was still in church, but they put her out, right? She was excommunicated, or what they used to do is send them down to Mississippi to go down south, and have their baby, and then either they come back or they leave the baby down south and then they come back. And it was all of these things in which, and forgive me because I've been over inundated with Hartman and the logics of the afterlife of slavery and religion. Black religion is one of them, right? It is nothing but a recreation of subjugation that we had learned within the matrix of slavery itself. And there's a rational way of understanding it that we would never learn how to be anything different or how to set up any other relational model other than what we had experienced before. So clearly, of course, it's going to be of course there's going to be power dynamics. Of course, there is going to be harm there because that's when we came into this country and that was the model that we had. But what I do push back on against is being okay with that. Like, it is rational to say, okay, well, this is some bad habits we learned, and this is the harm that is done from these things. And I also want to point out that there's this assumption that slavery ended. It never ended.
Of course not.
If there was any rupture in slavery, it was just legal at all. But then they, reconfigured it.
We have more people enslaved in this country right now than any point in history. And
don't recognize it, and don't
know. Won't acknowledge what it is.
I don't care how much money they have. I don't care what kind of bags they buy. We are all still within this matrix and system of slavery. And so anyway, what I'm saying is that we reimagined slavery within Black religion itself that creates the conditions that make women vulnerable. And so if you're asking me, well, how do we remedy that? And if a woman who experienced these harms and my mother and some of her friends are still feeling the effects of what they talk very vividly in their 50s, 60s, and 70s about things that happened in their teenage years, that happened to them as young women and in their 20s. And I think part of the way we heal it, at least one of the utilities that we use, is that we have each other. And you and I can model a conversation that is complicated, that may not have an easy answer. And the answer itself perhaps may be imbalance itself that we would have to work on again. But if we don't talk about it, and this is my critique, one of the critiques of the church, is that they'll always say, well, if we point out these things, then we're somehow anti-Christian, or we're not pro-church, and you keep going to your barbershop and they're liars and they do all these different kind of things. Why you have to bring it to the church? And my whole thing was well, first of all, we cannot equate the church to my barbershop. I don't go to it for the same reasons. And so I hope the barbers in the barbershop are moral and ethical people, but that's not why I go there. We expect more out of our religion. We expect more out of our religious leaders. And if we don't have these conversations, how are we made better? If you and I don't have a conversation where I ask you, do you hate men? How do we become and develop a level of intimacy where we understand the trajectory of our thoughts, even if the words that are being used seem rough? But no, I understand you. And it is only through our conversations and building a bridge towards one another. And I think, we start on the path of some wholeness for both of us. So, and I want to say men need to be healed. Ways.
Part of why I don't get into the whole people need to be healed, because healing is not linear and it is perpetual. And I don't think we ever reach a point in our life where we can say, I'm healed. No, you're not. No, because especially if you experience extreme trauma, because at any point in your life, something could trigger it and you're right back there. Absolutely. So we're never fully healed. And I think
we could be more healed.
We could be healer. We could be better. Right? But, I think that sometimes we set up, because I see people like, in terms of dating, I'm looking for someone who is healed. No, you're not going to find anybody who is 100% healed. Sure. You can find people on their healing journeys. You can find people that are working towards that. Absolutely. And I think one of the things we have been seeing, right, in the last, I would say 10 to 20 years, is a return to the source in terms of spirituality. More people are returning to African traditional religions, right? Like Ifa and Lukumi and Candomblé and Santeria and, these things, they are going back to Yoruba religions. They're going back to these things that exist, these ideas and systems that existed for, thousands of years. But also when you look at hoodoo, right? Hoodoo comes in and recognizes that cultural memory that came across the ocean, right? And when we look at the Black church, so many elements of the Black church are from these African traditional religions. Whether people want to believe it or not, they'll call it demonic, but it's like all of that hooting and hollering and all of that stuff that y'all doing is coming straight from Africa. Like, what are you doing, right? Yeah. And so, like, I'm starting to see that transition. I'm starting to see more people saying, wait a minute. What we're doing is very much like what we were doing before we were even introduced to this notion of Christ, right? Yeah. Or whatever, How can we be rooted in that? And I'm also seeing it is rather woman-led at this point. You see more and more women kind of going back to that. And I think it is because of the rejection of the patriarchy and the violence that they perceive exists within the Black church as an institution, all, capitalized the Black church. And so I think they're taking this reverence for Jesus and all those kinds of things, but also saying, hey, we had ways of being before this that I feel connect me more to nature, connect me more to the people around me, give me more spiritual fulfillment. Don't limit me to this, idea of this one God, but maybe there are several, Orisha that are looking out for me. One guides the water, one guides travel, one guide, kind of like, what the Santeria folks did with Catholicism and stuff like that, right?
Sure.
I think what I'm seeing happening there is an empowerment that you don't necessarily see among Black women who are in the Black church, right? And I see a sense of community. I see a sense of strength among these practitioners. And when I say see, I'm talking from North America to Latin America. I've been to Cuba. I've been, I've seen it everywhere. Puerto Rico, I've seen it everywhere. And what I recognize is this spiritual fulfillment in those women, a strength, a support and love by the men around them, right? And the gender expansive people, right? And also those practices welcome gender expansive people, welcome, lesbian, gay, trans people in ways that the Black church does not, right? And these people are feeling something more spiritually and culturally empowering. So I am seeing that happen. And I love that for folks. I love that they can feel more spiritually grounded and connected in those ways. And we can definitely look to hoodoo. And I think the interest in hoodoo has been growing, obviously, since Sinners came out, right? A lot of times the media does kind of shape people's interest. But then if we go back to Beyonce's Lemonade, that got more people starting to think about the Orisha and things like that. I've been on that for a long time, but it's whatever. So I think that that's something that's happening. So I'll just put that there. We can just kind of pin that there, because those women will put you in a jar if you hit them, right? The Black church said, oh, he hit you, you got to pray for him. He probably needs some help, whatever. You got to go to the pastor for counseling. And if the pastor's beating his wife, we don't know what's going to happen. But the sisters over here, the hoodoo sister said, we're going to put that in a jar and see if he touched you again, right? So there's some of that happening that I think.
Yeah,
and yes, and I saw a Haitian woman talk about, people demonizing voodoo. Like, come on, voodoo is older than any of this. Come on, you know. So I think there's a movement happening there as well. So I think that's something.
You know, and I have to be faithful to my own conscience and what I see. And I remember as a child, a woman coming into church who would come into church and have bruises on her face. And it seems like the women would give her some special attention when she came in, and her, you know, clothes could be torn, and she was wearing sunglasses in the church, and they would tend to her and try to minister to her. And then she would leave and come back with more bruises until one day she didn't. And, you know, we had a funeral for her. And I think I was too young. I was very perceptive. I knew something was wrong, but of course they didn't talk to children about like what is exactly happening. Perhaps, you know, that was correct, maybe not. But when I got older and talked to my mother about what was happening, there's a part of me that cannot reject what I know because it does not fit within the tradition that I was raised in. And I am not faithful to myself or to the God that I know to look away from ways in which the Black church has failed Black women. And yet there would not even be a Black church without them. And so I understand how women are seeking more liberation and more safe spaces and going back to religion in a way that is more indigenous, that is more native, that is free from the constraints and free from the purview of male authority, that they are seeing that they have a connection to the divine without having a man in between them, this mediator between them. And I totally understand it. And so I am not an apologist for the Black church or Christianity, but I am part of the Black church and I am a Christian. And I would hope that religion will enhance our lives. I would hope my tradition that I was born in would enhance in life, but the reality is that I think it's done just as much harm as it is done good. And I do think that there's a renaissance of spirituality. You talk about Beyonce, you talk about a lot of other women who are introducing different spiritual practice. I just want to give a shout out to Iyanla. You know, she was like one of the first people that I began to recognize who was into Yoruba. And in a lot of ways, her spirituality and her spiritual practice, and I've read a couple of books by her. And one of the things I'm thinking about is Peace from Broken Pieces, that I thought was an excellent book, that they are stepping outside of the religion that we were raised in and seeking the divine on their own. And I fully support that. I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
I want to change the channel.
Okay.
What is a Black man? What does it mean? How do we define a Black man? What makes a Black man, a Black man? Yeah. What makes a Black man a Black man? What does that mean?
I don't know why you.
Like, what does it mean? Or what? Okay. Stop. On everything that you know, all the studying you've done, all the experiences you've had, all the things you've witnessed, borne witness to, all the people that you've met throughout your life, right? What do you understand that it means to be a Black man in 2026? Or what should it mean?
Well, look, before I can be specific about that, I want to lay a foundation to that answer by saying that we all are humans, and it's interesting that the human phenomenon of life, that we're all experiencing life at the same time, in the same moment, reacting, trying to understand, and trying to navigate life. And I appreciate the complexity and how messy life is. I think at 50, I've come into myself more than I ever have been. And there's just a lot been going on in my life the last 10 years that have transformed me into how I'm thinking and how I wish to live my life. And what I know about manhood, I don't know if I have an answer about what manhood means, what Black manhood means. But what I can do is be descriptive about some ingredients that I think are important to being a man and being a Black man. And I think one of the things is to be conscious. And when I
Of
say
what?
that,
Yeah.
when I say that, what I mean is that our lives are interconnected with one another. You had an interview this past week, and we talked about it like a few days, maybe a week. I knew it was coming, and then we talked about it a couple of days before it was, and we talked through how you were feeling and what you were thinking and how you were processing it, and you talked about your desires and talked about what you wanted. And part of my manhood, a part of my being human, is to understand that I am not human alone, that I am connected to you through our relationship, and love is our, it's our currency, it's our intimacy, it's our bridge towards one another. And I am not allowed to be on this life and to call myself your friend without being conscious of what you are happy about, what you're sad about, what you're thinking, and that creates a bridge. And I think there's a lot of times early on as a young man, I thought I had to go it alone. That loneliness and isolation were like companions for me that triggered or nurtured some abandonment issues that I had. I Disneyfied my life so much that I thought that slaying dragons and being the hero was something that I needed to do in order to prove my manhood or to display my manhood. If I was telling you earlier, we talked about how the Bible, women are theologized to understand that there's value in their body, whether it's their hair, their breasts, their eyes. For men in scripture, what it says for us is that the only value I have is if I make a name for myself. Like I have to be somebody in order to be attractive to women and to be attractive to an employer. I have to develop these things and I have to project them. And part of my masculinity is projecting the idea of me and what capitalism shapes us to be. And what I've come to realize is that masculinity doesn't lie in anything that can be bartered or be a transaction. That, getting back to Kierkegaard, that don't come into myself unless I am connected to you. And that is a very vulnerable experience, right? But I think, though, what I've been meditating on is that everything we want is on the other side of our vulnerability. You could have talked yourself out of not going to the interview. You're like, I don't want the rejection. I'm anxious about the outcome of what would happen, and yet you press past that exercise of sitting in the tension, sitting in the vulnerability, understanding that on the other side of this conversation may be everything that I want, but I have to get through it through having conversations. And so when I asked you, do you hate men, is a way that I don't know if you knew how vulnerable that was for me, because I didn't think you hated me. I didn't think you hated me, but I didn't know how you were going to articulate yourself, and whether that would be whole or healing for me, or whether it would cause a rift. But I trusted that our
I gotta say, it bothered me though, and we're gonna have this conversation. It bothered me because I thought you knew me better. There was something in me. That was my reaction. Was like, why is he asking me this? We've been friends too long for this.
I know. So
I was kind of like, and there was something about me that started questioning my ability to be a friend, and what was I maybe not giving you as a friend? Because why would any friend of mine ask me that?
No. It has nothing, and I don't. Thank you.
But I see it on the other side. We've obviously talked through it, but I'm just saying. Initially, I was just like, of all the people in my life to ask me this, why did he ask me this?
But I think in those kinds of conversations is where intimacy deepens itself. Because it's not, yes, I know you. Yes, I knew you didn't hate me. But we need to have a conversation that brings me deeper into how you are thinking. And sometimes that starts with a very vulnerable question that sets you aback and sets me aback, and like, okay, we're paying attention to one another. Let's talk. Let me hear how you're thinking, and let me tell you how I'm thinking. And after, on the other side of that, it was like, this is great. Like, well, we should have had this conversation a long time ago. I didn't think that you hated me, and I don't want you to tax yourself to say, well, how was I displaying in my friendship that makes me even question that? No, that is how intellectually curious I am about you and your world and how you see things. And I had the privilege of not just reading, what you put out publicly, but I could get you on the phone and be like, hey, well, let's talk. That's an honor. That's a privilege. And you bring me into your world. And I think that's where that space of vulnerability, that little moment of tension about, okay, well, here's my question, and I'm waiting for what you're going to say to me, and your look of surprise and how you engage is where I think the gold of life, the value, the virtue of life. Like, if we hadn't had that conversation, I could always push it down because perhaps I'm afraid of what you're going to say.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that vulnerability, that space, that tension is like, oh, I get it. And
our brother's able to do that, right?
Yeah. Well, again,
and that's the question, because what you're describing, I think, would be so beneficial to brothers had they been raised from a younger age to not fear that vulnerability and take that
I wasn't raised that way. I want to be
no, but
clear.
also
I wasn't raised that way. I had to,
but sweetheart, you went to college, you went to graduate school, you got to sit with these scholars and the things that they've been thinking about and writing all these years. You got to mold this around in your head. You got to sit amongst people and have those conversations. You have someone like me that you can talk to these things. Not all of our brothers are able to achieve that level of intellectual curiosity and kind of intellectual enlightenment, because I have been accused by someone in this chat right now, I intellectualize everything. I intellectualize love. I always try to find this rational explanation for it. Perhaps I have a touch of the tism, but our brothers able to access what you accessed or were able to eventually access, to be able to sit in that and to be willing to go into a woman's world, right? Because what does the religion teach us? What does the patriarchy teach us? That the woman becomes an asset of the man. She's acquired. The man acquires her. He brings her into his life. She's got to take her, his name, although every other culture is like, no, she keeps her own name. But in this space, it's like, no, she's got to take his name, leave her family behind, become part of his, go into his world, and become a character in his story. Where is the impetus? And I'm thinking, brothers especially, what is the impetus for a man who, given our generation, likely did not have a father around to model any type of masculinity? Probably the earliest exposure to masculinity he had was abandonment, right? Or was extracted, whether it was through the Vietnam War or the mass incarceration or what have you, right? This is a very real experiences that we're talking here. Sure. How does he grow up? Right? And how does he get to this place where he understands that it is okay for him to step into the woman's world and to venture into her life and ask questions about her? Because most women will tell you that when most of us that do date men will tell you, we've gone on dates for 2 whole hours, and at the end you can be like, so what did you learn about me today? And they're like, because they don't ask us questions about us. They don't show the curiosity about who we are. All that matters is how we look, whether or not we're willing to reproduce. Can we cook? What kind of attitude do we have? Can we be submissive and peaceful? All the things that a lot of us love about ourselves. I just posted about this the other day. All the things that are ugly about me as a woman are the things that I love the most about myself. But they are the things that men, unfortunately, a lot, not all, okay, obviously not all, tend to find repulsive. So how do we encourage brothers to be willing to step into a woman's world, into her life, and learn more about her. Maybe then they'll stop with these Instagram posts where they describe their women on their anniversary, and all it is he's describing a enslaved workhorse. Right, her functions, right? What does she contribute to his life, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel privileged.
And it's like, and just for people listening, this all folds into this intimate partner violence conversation, y'all, because this is really at the heart of that.
Yeah. I feel privileged, and I understand my unique experience that all humans aren't reflective. It is one of the central tenets of philosophy that a good life is one of reflection. And I understand that sometimes Black men don't have time to reflect and find out what I think and what I feel. For all of the things that have shaped me, yes, scholarship and intellectual curiosity has shaped me. What's also shaped me is two other things. My pastorate, because I got to be with people, and I got to be with people in some of the most horrendous, painful situations you could ever imagine. And having that kind of human experience of visiting them gave me more empathy to understand that y'all
are the spiritual social workers, for real.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's part of the job. Another thing that has shaped me is my own pain, right? That I wasn't built to kind of push down for too long. I didn't have the tools to push my pain down. I had to sit with it. I had to deal with it. And so this is like 20 something years of therapy too, you're talking to, and working stuff out. And
what prompted you to go to therapy? I want to share with folks, and I asked Patrick if it was okay to talk about this. You have lived with depression, correct? This is something that I've known about you. I've actually, even being the mental health professional, and I'll share with people, I'll tell, I've had times when I've felt rejected by Patrick, not realizing that perhaps he was in a depressive episode. I didn't realize how deep that affected you, or like how, not going to say how frequent or how often, but how much it was a part of your life. And so there would be times where like I wouldn't hear from you or whatever, and I was just like, oh, he must have a girlfriend or something, whatever. But remember that conversation that we had to have about that? Like I had to be vulnerable in that and to kind of approach you like and say like, I feel like you've kind of pushed me away whenever you get a girlfriend. And you were like, no, I was depressed. And that, like, that was like, oh shit. That was a check from me, right? Because we're both Aries and we're both egomaniacal, but right. Again, loving someone for so long and being friends for so long, I felt like shit. Like I didn't even recognize that perhaps it was depression. Can you talk to people a little bit more about how that has, I don't want to say shaped your life because I don't want to put that on there, but how it's factored into the experiences you've had as this adult Black man, how you come to understand yourself as a Black man, how that's, affected your relationships with folks, with women, whatever the situation, whatever you want to talk about. I do think it's important to hear from someone like you on that.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I wrote the book was because after my divorce, went into a depression and I was trying to get myself out. So I was reading, trying to find literature and read stuff and find, lectures or whatever about it. And they were all about women. And I was like, yes, I hear you. But I kind of needed a man to articulate to describe loss for me and describe like how do we come out and how do we recognize these things in ourselves. And I couldn't find it. So I kind of wrote the book based off what I wanted to hear, what I needed to hear. You asked me a long time ago, could I write that book again? And I was like, no. It captured a moment in my life. I would add so much more to it. But I think at the heart of it was me articulating what had been very old for me, that my depression didn't start with any experience that I had with my ex-wife. It exposed it, right? It just manifested it, but it was old for me. It was old of being a middle child, kind of being buried in between parents who were tending to my brother's needs, who had very specific needs, and I was always the one where everybody said, "Oh, he'll be okay," right? Because didn't look like anything, was too much going on with me. I was okay, pretty happy-go-lucky, but what was really happening was that as an empath, I could take the temperature of a room and sense if my mother is sad, how to make her happy. Or if my father had tension, how to soothe that, or how to play referee between two brothers that have very different and the same personality at the same time. And so most of my life, I felt like I've been in the middle playing referee between these things, trying to understand. And what gets lost is how I understand myself and the energy that you expend doing that. What we often don't talk about is even in spiritual care, even in being spiritual social workers or the pastorate, it costs you something to do that. Like that's not free. And then I come from a family of social workers. My parents worked for public aid. My grandmother worked for public aid. And so I was raised or groomed to be in service. And at some point you realize that this is killing me on the inside. And then you marry someone who you have hopes. And the idea is, like you said, I have a story in my head and I am casting you in this to play this role in my head. Now, you may not know the whole story, but I have sized you up to say, we're Christians and we check all these boxes that we were told were important from our religion. And then it doesn't work out. And then you feel like, well, I did everything right. I did everything I thought was right. And it still turned out wrong, which exacerbates the depression because then it comes not just into tension with who I am that I haven't even healed yet, but now I'm in conflict with my God and I'm in conflict with the church who looks, you got that divorce thing on you, and friends who were getting married at the same time when I was the first one of us to get a divorce. And now they acting funny because they don't want you to bring that divorce stuff over here, right? Wow. Their wives don't want you hanging out because they don't want me to put ideas in their heads to my brothers. And so it was incredibly isolating. So those things that I experienced as a young man didn't start there. They were always there. It just exacerbated it. It just brought it to the surface. And so then what got me into therapy was that I had a very good friend to this day, we're very close. And we used to meet at this little bar in Hyde Park in Chicago on the South Side. And we would sit and have a drink and we would catch up once a week. That's how, we were accountable to one another. And after about a year or so, he was like, you're not getting any good. You really need to sit down and talk with somebody. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Because I was getting angrier. My days were getting darker. I was living in a cave. I had to act like I had to perform. And that's another reason why I don't think men mind themselves in order to have these kind of conversations, because I have to perform. I'm only valued. You only care about me when I can't function. Right. Nobody checks on their tool. As long as it's functioning, it's fine. But when it's not, we need to get this fixed. So I need to get a new one. Right. And so I didn't have time to grieve. And so therapy held up that mirror and put me in a room where I couldn't move away. And it was some intense days. There was some tears. And on top of that, my abandonment issues could be exacerbated by people who die on you. Right.
It's just wild. Like, people dying, they ain't never died before. You like, wait. I'm in a moment here of healing, and here you go and you die.
Man, I remember when my dad passed away. He passed away right before I was 40. My grandmother passed away, I think I was 37. My grandmother was 92, so I was like, I get it. You tired. I totally understand. My dad was a young man, and when he passed away, I remember going to the viewing, and it was just me and my brothers and my mother, and I was like, what the?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You just get the bounce? Wait a minute. Hold on. I am not ready for this. And I processed his death as a weapon against me. Like, how could you leave me? Like, wait, hold on. Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. And it took me to understand that my father's human experience and mine, yes, they are connected, but they are not intimately intertwined. That his death and other people's death, and I've had people die. It's one of the, again, this is how pastoring taxes you, because people not just leave your church, they die on you. People you love, that you are in connection with, and they go without, sometimes you don't get to say goodbye. I've had the privilege of being by bedsides, and I got to say goodbye, but then you just wake up one morning to a phone call. It's like, what? Like, what?
There was a period I remember where you were getting back-to-back losses almost. And I was worried about you. I was like,
and it was one thing, another thing too is that I was single, and I had no one to talk to about it. Like, there was nobody to roll over to tell me you're gonna be okay, or to have human touch, to know that I am still alive, I'm still connected. And there were people who loved me and who were in my life, but in those moments when you by yourself, you feel like the world is caving in on you and is suffocating you. And there were times where I was worried about me.
Okay.
I didn't know if I was going to get out of this. And so, depression is old for me. I am better at noticing reasons why, what triggers it, and what's happening, what's going on with me. And I'm like, okay, I know where I am. I know what questions to ask me. I know how to soothe myself. I know now that it doesn't always happen by me being isolating myself. That's my default. That's how, moments I need to go back. That sometimes, again, being in relationship with people, they become spaces for us, and they allow me to come out of my own head, and know that I'm not alone. And so I feel privileged, because most Black men have not had that level of introspection.
Yes.
And so you may be meeting a man who has the capacity to do that, but never has been in praxis. Don't know how. And I will admit, when I first went to therapy, at some point, very early on, she was like, well, why are you coming if you're not going to tell the truth? I was like, I don't know how to tell the truth. I just know how to put on, to show. I don't know how to sit with something that is painful, that is honest, that it happened, and be okay with it. I know how to rewrite the story to give people passes. I know how to make excuses.
I mean, all of this is my life.
They hurt
like,
me.
100% you're describing my life, and I'm saying this, I'm a woman, right? And so I think to that point, it's like, yes, brother, you have gone through these things, and these are so important. Can you see that I too have had the same experience? Number one. Two, are you willing to be my peace and hold me up? And, and not saying you specifically, because obviously you do, but just kind of in these conversations that I'm seeing come up about Black men's mental health, and Black women don't care about our mental health, and I'm like, how do we get to that point? Because you got a soft bed to lay in every night. You got dinner every night. That woman worked all day and came home and made sure you had dinner, and you yelled at her because it wasn't hot enough. But you say that she don't care about you. Like, did you ask her where she is? And I think sometimes sisters feel like, brother, I hear you. I know it's hard to be a Black man in this country, in this world. It's also hard being a Black woman, adding that extra layer of gender oppression, right? And I'm trying to be here with you. I'm trying to be here. I'm actually going to listen to everything that you just said. And I'm just going to ask you, can you imagine the same for me? Because everything you just described, tomorrow is the 19th anniversary of my mother dying. That woman died when she was only 51 years old. I felt the same way. The fuck you leave? My kid is only 6 months old. Don't you know I need you to be here to show me how to do this? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the husband that I had opted to go be with one of the women he was cheating on me with when he was supposed to be with me at the wake. Right? Coupled with postpartum depression that lasted for 2 years. Until eventually I tried to self-delete. That's when I started therapy. And it took me 2 years to connect to my kid. Now, people who see the relationship between me and my kid would never guess that for the first 2 years of his life, I struggled to connect with him because of everything, right? Losing my mother, my marriage, all these things like this, being treated in this way. There was nobody asking me if I was okay or what I needed. I still had to go to work, still had to show up for all the people in my life. And later on, when I would date other men or whatever, it was always about them and their paternal abandonment. Well, my mother was in jail for 10 years and my father pulled a gun to my mother and all these things. And I'm there with them and I'm holding that space for them. And I'm trying to be that supportive person. But never once did any of them say, what about you? How can I show up for you? Black woman who faces not only the racist shit, but also the sexist shit. Black woman who lost her mother too soon. Black single mom trying to raise the kid. Black woman working 2, 3, 4 jobs. How can I exist in this space to support you? And I'm saying this because I know how many sisters go through this. The men they love will dump everything on them and not even so much as say, you good? So if we want to have these conversations, right? And now the new narrative is that we don't care. Can't talk to them. Every time we talk to them, can't be honest with them. Well, if you're honest and you say, well, you know, I cheated on you because I was depressed and whatever, and you want her to be like, I'm going to hold space for you telling me that you cheated on me because you were depressed. And I'm not going to get mad at you. I'm just going to listen and welcome it. I'm not going to have a reaction because if I react, then you're going to say, well, now I can't tell you anything.
I know.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
So what you see, particularly in our generation, Generation X, is Xennials, is sisters living behind walls. We are the first generation to be sexualized in such public, largely public ways. We are the first generation to be so publicly and carelessly preyed on by older men. We are the first single parent generation, all of us together, right? We are so many of those things that now we're 45, 50, 55 years old, having been raised to pour into the Black man. Hold up the Black man. Be his peace, be his support. He didn't mean to hit you. He didn't mean to call you a bitch. He doesn't mean to keep telling you to do something with your hair. He doesn't mean to complain about the food you cook. He didn't mean to only take the kids 4 days a month. He didn't mean to not send the child support because he had a third wedding to plan. He didn't mean that. You got to hold him down. You got to support him because the Black man in America is going through the worst things. And you, Black woman, inferior, submissive, subservient Black woman, you can take that and not even be asked, how are you? So they're asking us to still give more. At 47, I don't have it. babe, I don't have it anymore. And I'm still going to be blamed and called bitter. Bitter Black feminist bitch. Yeah. That'll,
Yeah,
it can happen.
I think part of our public discourse should be the reflex of every man, I think, Black man specifically, is to not get into this kind of comparative suffering with Black women. Like, I refuse to do that because I affirm the fact that everybody suffers. We suffer differently. Our particulars are different.
Together in this.
Yeah, but our suffering doesn't make us special.
Right.
It does make us human. It makes us a part of this experience. And I try not to be elitist about this and having these conversations because I'm not privileged. I am. I've went to some institutions. I have incredibly brilliant friends like you that I can just pick up the phone and have conversations with. And there's so many people, so many men who don't have those kind of outlets. They don't have access and opportunities that I've had. So I'm not saying that I'm more evolved or whatever because perhaps I'm healed and perhaps I just haven't been in a position where I'm in close enough relationship with somebody that, unearthed something that I thought that I had dealt with. And so, like you said, healing is not static. It is an ongoing process that we are all on this journey. I think it's important for me, another reason why I went into therapy, because I felt like if I'm ever going to have a chance at love and a healthy relationship, I got to deal with my stuff. It's not fair to bring the pain of my own history and impose it on someone else that has done nothing to me. And so if I want a fair chance at us, if I want a fair chance of being the man that I wanted to be or envision being for my partner, then I got to do my own work. And I understand why people don't do it, because that's work. It can be exhausting to do that kind of interior maintenance on your life, and yet I think it is the one thing that is so needed. To which I would hope, in the best case scenario, our religion opens us up to the conscious of ourself, to see where I need to address this. I need someone to help me address this.
Do you feel, as a man who is a Christian, a Black man who is a Christian, but I'm going to say man, do you feel like you have a certain privilege to give that religion the benefit of the doubt, being a man? Or to be able to see in the religion that, be more optimistic within the religion than maybe a Black woman might be?
No, I am much more of a critic than I am an apologist for Black religion. And I had to grow into that. And that is a rejection of the patriarchy that I see within the biblical text and how it is theologized and how it is enterprise within America. I had to look at all of those things and reject it and understand that part of my privilege comes from it. Part of my power within society comes out of being theologized that I am a man. And that carries with it some manifest destiny or some lineage of I'm supposed to conquer and rule everything. And I had to reject all of that and see see the woman the sister standing next to me as my equal, no more or no less human than I am. And there comes a dignity and affirmation of a human experience that I don't know. And so since that is, the only way I can understand your pain is that we have to have vulnerable conversations, and I have to show up, and I need you to show up. Like if we would have, going back to our conversation, if you would have rejected me, I don't know where I don't know if you would have just put up a wall and be like, yeah, I'm not having this conversation because I don't have to explain myself to you, then I think it would have wounded our connection.
But you knew I wouldn't have done that.
No, I'm just saying if that was, of course. But I
have to say this. You were able to be vulnerable because you knew deep inside I would never have rejected that. You knew that.
I knew you didn't hate me. I didn't know if you would be willing. Of course. And I don't know what
have you because you've never experienced me shutting you down.
Exactly.
Right.
And so this is a new
15 years of me never shutting you down. There was safety in that.
and yet there's a bridge to cross together that we've never crossed together.
Yeah.
And whenever you go into new spaces, there's always questions about spaces that you're unfamiliar with. And so, yes, I totally, we would have been fine. Yeah. But I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you would have put up a wall and been like, yeah, I'm not having this conversation, I'm not talking to you. And if you would have felt like I was attacking you, then we would have lost a connection that I think is so needed. And sometimes, you know, the critique within our relationships is that when we put things on the table like that, it's very hard to have the conversation if we're both going to be defensive. And again, it takes some work and some maturity that, no, we're going to stay right here. And I know this may be uncomfortable for us, but we love each other enough to kind of work through it and to see each other and say, okay, let's talk and understand that our conversation and our talk is not an attack. Like this is what friends do. This is what people in relationships do. This is how we know one another. And let me add this too. Even though we've been friends all this time in each other's lives, who you are now is very different from who I met you. Like, and so I say
the same with you.
Yeah, and so we are in constant recreating ourselves, and that means that we have to know who we are now. And I had to be mature enough. I couldn't have asked you that question 10 years ago, right? And it speaks of the growth that I have, the growth that you have, and the growth that we've had together, that we can have that. Like, that takes work. It takes some time. You got to put some work into it. It doesn't happen overnight. And so I feel privileged to have that kind of experience, and I'm understanding that most men don't.
Especially in the time that we are right now, this microwave era, this time where everybody is seeking instant gratification. You know, they go on 2 dates and it's like, you're my girlfriend now? Like, let's just, let me lock this in. Let me just, and the women are like, wait, hold on. Can I get to know you? And the men a lot of the men are just like, what is there to get to know? You're a woman, that I'm a man. Like, I don't actually need to know much about you as a human being. You check off all these boxes. So how about you just be here and play this role for me? And it's like, well, y'all know it does take time to get to know people and to kind of build rapport and things like that. But I also, again, there's some generational stuff going on there. Yeah. There's we are from a different time. We played outside. Like, we played tag, we played dodgeball. We knew what it was like to watch a mouse so you don't get punched in the mouth. Like, like we come from a different space, but also one that was, I think the younger people are more expository. They're more open, they talk too damn much, right? But at least they do that. So I think there's also something there. But what I was going to say is that for me, being, all the things that I've experienced, what I've leaned into is like, I have you. You've been with me throughout these relationships. And one thing I always say is like, I got Patrick. Like, how do you measure up to this person who has been consistent in his care for me, support of me, this kind of friendship? And I come from a different perspective. I'm a relationship anarchist. So for me, this whole like prioritizing romantic, platonic, friend, all that stuff like that is weird to me. But but at the same time, even if I did align with those binaries, any person that I date, I'm looking at like the friends I have in my life. How do you measure up to that? Because the love that I have from my friends sustains me in ways that are more fulfilling than any romantic connection that I've had, right? And while I understand that I'm a little bit different from folks, and that there are people that still seek that romantic love as though that is the pinnacle of everything, and sometimes they lose sight of the fact that you got people in your life who love you more than anybody ever has. And why is that love not sufficient? Or, why is that love not translating or resonating with you as so deeply intimate and fulfilling that you still feel like you have a void that can only be filled by this romantic love, right? Now, the sex part aside, me, I don't know who you got watching. I don't know if you got your religious friends watching this or whatever, but everybody, this is my show, so I do what I want. I say what I want. But at the same, so for me, I don't connect sex with romance. I don't connect sex with intimacy. I think sex is it's a demonstration of something that can mean whatever it means in the moment, right? So if you have sex with somebody and it means it's an expression of love, then let it be that. If it's to make some money, let it be that. If it's because you're bored and your PlayStation ain't working, let it be that, right? But for some reason, not for some reason, I know exactly what the reasons are. We have been conditioned to believe that life is not complete without a romantic partner. And if we can't find one, if we can't sustain a relationship, if we can't make it last or whatever, there's something wrong with us. There's a deficit there. We have not, fulfilled our, social contract or whatever. But I stepped back when I stopped performing romance. I stepped back and I looked at like my friend Nikki and my friend Asa and you and my friend Marsha, my college roommates. We lived together in 1998. We still have a group chat. When I think about these people who I love and who allow me to love them and perform that love you talked about at the top of the show, but who also pour it back into me, I'm not wanting for love.
Yeah.
I'm not wanting for intimacy, vulnerability, confidence, anything. I'm not wanting for any of that. I want, and this is also something that tends to happen with women, is why we go on girl trips. This is why, when they talk about the male loneliness epidemic, the women are kind of like, yeah, but I got my girls though. There's a tension there too. And we've talked about this before, and I've mentioned it before, that a lot of men seek romantic connections with women when really they just need a friend, because they've been taught the only time they're allowed to be that vulnerable is within the confines of a romantic connection. And so if they're not in a romantic connection, they got to speed that up. We got to have sex. We got to make this romantic so that I can finally open up and be vulnerable, because I'm not allowed to do that with anyone else. I can't do that with my boys. Can't have a female friend, especially if she's pretty, So there's that. And I think that I want for more men, for more Black men especially, to have real friendships, deep, intimate friendships with people they can pour into and who can pour into them, that are not contingent on exchanging bodily fluids, that are not transactional. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm coming from the bell hooks point of view. How, if we could do that, maybe that can lessen the harm of on women, right? If brothers could have more friendships and more spaces to be vulnerable, then maybe we wouldn't have to do so much heavy lifting when we function as romantic partners. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
How are you thinking about that? Yeah.
No, I love bell hooks. And you talk about me for loving bell hooks, but I love bell hooks.
We could do better.
Yeah.
Michelle, right there. No, let me
I want to go back to something you mentioned or whatever. You mentioned that one day you said to me, you felt rejected. And you were like, you must have somebody in your life. And we had that conversation. I think one of the things I said to you, hopefully I said to you, if not I said, I'll say it now, is that any woman in my life has to understand the loves of my life. That if you are my partner, you're getting the best out of me because I have been loved. And my friends pour into me and I into them. And if you're seeing something in me that is attractive to you, it is because I have been loved well. You don't, I won't replace romantic love for all of the loves of my life. And I would never exchange a friend for a romantic partner simply because that romantic partner has to know that I am bringing community with me that makes me who I am, which you say you like or whatever. So there's no negotiation of, this person, if you want me, this person can be in my life. Well, you gotta, okay. Like, first of all, you don't do that to us.
Right. So for me and you, like, it's shit. Like, ain't no way you gonna tell me to get rid of my friend. No, we are too loyal for that shit. No.
Yeah, so you can roll, and
you can roll because we've been 10 toes down, buddy.
Absolutely, like that's non-negotiable. But but I think it pushes against kind of this idea that we roll everything into this romantic relationship to the detriment of all the things that made us who we are. Right?
And expect that person to be all those things that are a combination of the people in our lives. Yeah.
And they don't understand that my friends lessen the load for you.
The load, yep.
That you are my romantic partner. It could be primary. It could be prioritized in my life. And yet they help me be the best that I can be for you. Yeah. So if you cut me away from them, that means you have to be everything, which is unfair.
You got to pick up, right? You got to pick up everything that you cut off from them. And are you willing to take that on? Because no, in 6 months you're gonna be complaining about how you can't do that too much. You can't do it.
You can't do it. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to us. And so I hope I told you. I'm telling you now. There's never a time where I'm going to negotiate you or my friends for a romantic partner. And yet, with that being said, to get back to something else you said, there's a reality of emotional labor that we do in our relationships. Mm-hmm. This is what it is. Everything that we care about needs to be tended to. It needs to be taken care of. And that means that you give. That means you exchange. That means you nurture. That means that you are present when you need to be present and you do the best you can to show up. That's emotional labor that I don't know if this generation knows everything about, because what they see projected to them are just basically all highlights.
Also, they can download people and then delete them just with a block. Like this ability to so easily delete people when so many of their friends are, fonts in their devices or a couple of video clips. But when they're tired of it, they could just block somebody and delete them. We didn't grow up with that.
No.
We didn't grow up like that. We had to learn conflict resolution. We had to learn how to roll with the resistance of things. We had to work through things and really had to, for us to cut people off. It took a lot. You had to really, you could talk about my mama and we could play the dozens and still it's love, but it would take a lot. Now the younger folks, I think.
I'm concerned.
I'm concerned about them. I'm concerned about how easily they do. Yeah. I think we have kind of, we're the hybrid, right? So we're the analog folks in this digital world. And I think we've picked up some of this as well with the dating apps and everything, this idea that this what if there's somebody different, right? My poly ass is kind of like, I can have them all, but for some people, it's just like, what if there's, listen, I wish more people would just stop playing around and just listen, just be who it is. You got to boo in New York, you got to boo in Chicago, you got to boo in Austin, it's what it is. But in all seriousness, I think it's deepened this kind of mindset of what if. And I remember they were talking about this with online dating many, many years ago. They were like, people are not as willing to work through these rather minor things that come up in all kinds of relationships because they're wondering, one, I can just delete this and I can always get more. But what if my soulmate is in Zimbabwe? That could be true, but also you could have 10 soulmates and you could be overlooking 3 of them that are right there in your neighborhood because you got this mindset of what if, and you keep that one foot out of the door. And the minute something, comes up, it's like, I don't deal with this anymore, but I'm out because I can go right back on the apps and download someone else.
And I don't know, you don't need this from me, but I just want to say to you that your work to connect with your son very early on is amazing to me because we assume that things that are natural are going to be easy, right? And just because, this happens that there's automatic connection and there's affection and love and all the things that need to be there. And sometimes when it's not, people abandon relationships and abandon people because I love you, I'm in love with you, but it's not easy. And since it's not easy, it must mean that, I don't have time for this, or it must mean we shouldn't be together. No, it's going to be work. And I'm afraid that we don't have the emotional intelligence or activated or be conscious of it to understand that in anything that is worth doing, it is worth paying attention to, and it is going. You and I both know on academic tracks, yes, this is what we were supposed to be doing. Was it hard? Absolutely not. Did we want to quit sometime? Absolutely we did. And yet,
I never wanted to quit.
well, I sat in some
Speak for
classes.
yourself. Use I statements.
I sat in some classes and I was like, you know what? Clearly, I don't make good decisions about my life. I should not be making.
No, but I'm messing with you. But I know what you're talking. Like it pushes you to your limit, and you're like, I want this, but sweetheart, there is a line, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I was dealing with abuse from my chair. That I was just like, yo, why am I going through this? How much more of this do I have to take just to reach that end? But because I knew the end was in sight, right? In a relationship, there ain't no end. So there's a very fine line between let's work through this disagreement. Let's work through this conflict. Let's kind of meet each other in the middle, because honestly, this is not something that has to be detrimental to our connection. It's probably just a disagreement, whatever. There's a difference between that and things that become fundamentally like, whatever.
Functional and toxic.
Right. And I think so much of what we talked about today, whether it's patriarchy, whether it's society, whether it's, the church, whatever religion, can get in our heads, right? And tell us that even though our instinct and our gut and our spirit is saying, like, our body is reacting and saying, no, this is not good. They're saying you got to work it out. Relationships take work and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, how much work am I going to be expected? And then what's the share of the emotional labor, right? Because who ends up doing more of the work? Like, are we meeting in the middle? And I'm always coming from that place. I reject patriarchy. I reject this idea that a man leads and is supposed to protect and supposed to be head of household. And I reject all of that. If it's a partnership, it's a partnership, right? Regardless of gender, regardless of what. If it's a partnership, it's a partnership. Partnership requires negotiation. It requires revisiting this contract that you've made with each other and renegotiating the terms sometimes, right? Like what worked for us 3 years ago, I think we need to rethink this, right?
Yeah.
But all of this requires people coming to the relationship, as you said, having done that self-work, having been enlightened, having read things, having grown, mature and all that stuff. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think the majority of people are actually doing that. It's exemplified in our divorce rate. It's exemplified in the intimate partner violence that we see. We see it manifest in all these ways that people are not actually taking that approach. Yeah. And the ones who want to, a lot of times they're like, actually, I'm just going to sit back. I'm not desperate to be in a relationship. Yes, it can be lonely at night. I want to roll over, like you said, and just have somebody hold me. I'm touch starved. I live by myself. My son is in college. I don't hug people.
Right.
I went to see a friend of mine a few weeks ago and could not stop touching them. And I realized in that moment, I'm touch starved. I have not had human contact.
Sure.
For I couldn't even say how long. So of course we understand that the body needs that, right?
Needs it. Absolutely.
And so what do you do then when your friends live in their own homes? They're not living in your house every day, right? Yeah. What do you do when you don't have someone to wrap their arms around you on a regular basis? Someone, when you're sick, when I'm sick, I got to line up my medications. I got to make my own soup. I got to do all these things. I don't have nobody to take care of me. Those are the moments when it's like, okay, all right.
Right.
But I'm still not willing to sacrifice my mind, body, heart, and spirit just to say somebody's dead next to me.
Sure. And I also think that one of the things we don't talk about enough in our relationships is the reality of sacrifice. that there are sacrifices to be made. There are, and I'm saying rational sacrifices. I'm not saying anything unreasonable. What I'm saying is that to accommodate love in our lives, sometimes there's some cleaning out, some throwing away some stuff that we've been carrying, and it's not that it's detrimental, it's harmful. It's just a weight that we don't need to carry. And if I'm going to make room for somebody in my physical space, I'm going to have to throw away some of my own things to accommodate them. And I think that's, in the best case scenario, that kind of love is fluid. Like, it goes, we're both sacrificing because we all understand that what we have between us is important enough to do it. And is every relationship worthy? No, of course not. But the ones that are meaningful, it may mean you give a little extra. And that's and I think, again, going back to Kierkegaard, that is one of the ways we discover ourselves. It is not just that we are touch starved, that I need to be hugged, but I also need to be in practice of hugging someone. Yeah. Like, I need to use my arms and my body to embrace someone, to remind myself that I am human and that there are needs that I
be around white people all the time. I'm not hugging them. That's the majority of the people I'm around. Like, so I go outside, because I have agoraphobia, so I force myself to go outside. But I live in Whitelandia, so I go to the bar. I'm not hugging on no random white person, right? So again, even in the midst of sitting at the coffee shop or at the bar or whatever, I still, that kind of thing. And that's new. That's something I'm adjusting to. After ending my last relationship, I realized I had not been 100% single, probably 2 decades. There was always somebody that I could, or, it was always. And so, like, for the first time, although I probably still could. Oh, let me stop lying. There is always, I'm just saying, like, intentionally in this space that I'm in, I ain't got nobody to go to movies with. I love going to movies by myself, but like, concert comes up, if I don't take my son, I go by myself. Like, I don't have that. And I'm starting to see, like, kind of think through, like, what that means. And 80% of me is fine, honestly. But then there's the 20%, I think, and I am a physical person in that regard. So the 20, that whole, like, to be able to say, can you get me a glass of water? Because I can barely move with my chronic illness. I don't have that.
It matters.
It matters, yeah.
It does.
But I'm not letting no nigga come in my house that could possibly gonna talk me down and sabotage my dissertation and run through all these people and give me all kind of stuff that I don't know about and punch a hole in my wall and, never compliment me, make sure they go out of their way to never tell me I look nice. And, I'm not putting up with that shit. So it's that's where the sacrifice comes in. I have to be okay with physical loneliness because of my unwillingness to deal with that. And for many years, it seemed like that was what I was attracting. So I had to start doing some self-work myself. Like, what the hell are you doing? But anyway, it's going on 2 hours. We've been here a long time. Somebody asked why don't more women have female friends? I can't answer. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's not a real question to me, because every sister I know has a circle of friends, a tribe of friends. I have friends, like I said, that I've had. My oldest friend I've had since I was 14 years old, and I'm 47. My next oldest set of friends, we met in 1998. It is 2026. One of my group chats, we've been friends at least 15 years, so I can't relate to that. And most of the sisters that I know have very close friendships with women, gravitate towards women. So I can't really speak to that. And I also don't believe it's true. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, Patrick, I want to.
Before you go, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This week has been a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the things I know we had on our docket to kind of talk about intimate partner violence. And I don't think it's my duty or anything like that. I don't know how to put that. But the people that I love, I want to check in on them because I think what we've been seeing and reading, what we've been hearing through the news can be very disturbing and triggering. Um, it's disturbing to me. So I know people who are most vulnerable to it have to be triggered in ways that I don't, and disturbed in ways that I can't relate to. So my question is, how have you been processing it? How are you doing? Are you okay?
Um, it's interesting. I was really just thinking about this. I was like, I'm so used to hearing these stories because of the work that I do and what I've been about for the last 25 years of my life that none of it shocks me. I expect it. I know the statistics. I follow the news. Like I have alerts, Google alerts that tip me off to all these stories. I'm always aware of them. Um, I'm trying my best not to settle into this is just how they are mentality. This is just what they do. This is just what happens to us. Right? I'm trying not to lean into that. I know there's people looking to me for something. And I'm trying to navigate that. Because all I have to give is a fuck you. That's what's been in my spirit. It's been fuck y'all. I'm tired. I'm over it. We've been talking about this for decades. Decades. And I have resentment. Resentment is probably the word because I'm online and I'm seeing men spitting these platitudes and, trying to be all introspective. Oh, we really got to think about, what the patriarchy is doing to us. And I was like, we've been saying that. Black women have been publishing and writing about this 1920s. Amy Jacques Garvey, Anna Julia Cooper, they were writing about this a century ago. Sisters in the Black Power movement, Civil Rights movement, they were writing about this. They were lecturing about this. They were begging Black men to stop. The women in the Panther Party were like, stop raping us. How dare you fight for Black liberation and then come home and beat and rape us? Eldridge Cleaver writes in Soul on Ice, and every time I see a Black man talk about that book, I'm like, I know you didn't read it, or if you did, then you loved when he said that he practiced rape on Black women so that he can move on to white women. You probably loved that part. I read bell hooks, Patricia Hill Collins, Michelle Wallace, Alice Walker. Did y'all not see The Color Purple? That at the early 20th century, we've been talking about this. How long do Black women have to beg Black men to stop doing this to us? They do it more than white men do to their own women, and there's nobody the white man hates more than the white woman. But somehow our brothers took what they used to do to us and have turned it on the people they're supposed to love the most. We're tired. You can't act brand new. It's 2026. You can't. We've been saying it. 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. It's in the hip hop music. It was in the blues music. It's in the writing. It's in the literature. It's in the academic publishing. It's in the films. It's in everything we have poured out. We have been begging y'all. Because for every story we hear, there are 10 more we will never fucking hear. And now with everything being on video, I'm tired of seeing these brutal videos of these young men beating the snot out of these women. These girls getting tossed around rooms, stalked, chased. People laughing about it. We got to hear about websites where they go to learn to do this stuff. That ain't all white men. We got to deal with all this. We've been begging. And they haven't cared. Beautiful weather this weekend. Not a single march or demonstration for us. Like I said, if 9 Black men had been killed by the police and it made the media in 1 month, what would Black women do? We would be organizing marches and demonstrations in the streets. And now we have high-profile situations where Black women are killed by their intimate partners, 9 of them, in 1 month. And all I see are brothers on fucking podcasts and on their websites and making videos that they can monetize and going on social media. And it's like, brothers, we gotta stop hurting the women. Why are y'all not taken to the streets? Y'all know men that do this. They're in your family. They're in your barbershops. You hear them talk about how they coerced a woman into sex. You hear them brag about how they got the skins. They hit it, they beat it, they smashed, and you don't do nothing. You just let it be. And you have for decades. All these stories we're hearing about these Black men in these schools that are getting popped for raping the girls. One man took his damn life because they caught him. Every week I'm seeing a new story of a Black male educator getting arrested or being popped for sexually assaulting a student. What are we doing? But when we bring it up, we're the bitter Black bitches. Y'all hate men. Y'all sowing division in the Black community. Don't nobody kill Black people more than Black men. You kill each other, you kill us, and you got the highest suicide rate. You kill yourselves. And all we've been trying to do all this time, for at least a century, is trying to get y'all to see us as human beings, that you don't have to take that shit out on us. Patrick, I'm tired. I'm done. I don't have anything else. I've spent my life doing this, and I'm about to enter the second half of my life, leaving it behind me. I cannot do this anymore. I can't. Feminist Jones, everybody want to come at me. Want to make me out to be the villain. When all I've been trying to do is save our lives. Protect our babies. Save our communities. I've devoted my whole life to this. Just for people to give me their ass to kiss every single fucking day. And this week was it. It was my wake-up call. Oh, yeah. I'm done. Don't ask me for nothing. Don't ask me to be anything more than I've been for the last fucking 30 years of my life. Stop killing us. Stop raping us. Stop beating us. Stop killing our children. Stop killing yourselves. Do something. Will nobody organize a single march for us? Will none of you brothers take to the fucking streets for us? No. Because a goddamn white man taught y'all that we ain't worth shit, and that the best way to be a man is to put your fucking foot on our necks. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. And I'm tired. I have guns in my house. I'll be okay. I don't need your fucking weak ass protection. Because I've seen what your love looks like. Your love looks like robbing children of their mother. Your love looks like shooting your 8-month pregnant girlfriend because you can't afford to take care of the kids. That's what your love looks like. And not enough of you are willing to confront them because you're scared of them too. Y'all are scared of each other. That's why you won't stand up to protect us, because you know that crazy ass nigga, you see how he's beating on her, you know he's going to turn and do it on you, and you too scared to stop him. So that's all we got. All we got is each other. All the sisters out there building the communes and moving in and taking your kids and getting the homes together, keep doing it. Leave them behind. Take care of your babies. Save your babies. Because ain't nobody checking up for us. Ain't nobody trying to help us. Taking pictures with this man. This man killed his wife in front of his children. And these niggas are posting pictures, smiling with him and saying rest in peace to him and not even mentioning her name. But I'm supposed to say that's not all bad. That's not all bad. Yeah, obviously it's not. It should be none. So I'm angry, but I'm tired of being angry about this shit. And so what I'm going to spend my summer doing is making sure my wall has more bricks. Making sure it is impenetrable. Making sure no one can ask me to give anything more than I've given to this world. Baby, I'm in over 50 books. They done written dissertations about me. History will tell the story. I've done enough. Y'all got it. You don't need me no more. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. And now you got me looking stupid because I'm crying on my fucking thing, and I hate when people cry on these fucking videos because that shit is corny as shit.
Hey, I'm corny all the time. I will cry.
That's only because I ran out of my drink.
It's let me say this. I don't have anything to change that reality for you, how you feel, and I don't think it should be changed. What I will say is that from the very moment that we met, I met you and you was telling the truth. That's a service. It's a service to yourself and it's a service to your community. And you have never ceased to tell the truth publicly. And I totally understand that there's a rejection of truth and a reality that sometimes our little human minds reject because it's too big and too painful for us to do otherwise. And so there are angels among us who carry it for us, and that's not fair. You have been that angel that have been sending messages from the very moment and you were doing it before we met. You've been doing it, and that's a thankless job. And so thank you for always being courageous. And I've seen you fight battles and skirmishes and all the like, and I've seen the attacks, and I know you. I know you can handle what you can handle, but I also know you, and we don't walk away from it without some processing and some taxing that's done to our souls. And so, I love you. I see you. I want all my sisters to know and people that I love and care about that I see you, and I'm right beside you. And you help me think deeper about my responsibility and what I can do to help and be a shield and all those different kind of things. And thank you for being that for me, as a Black man who owes so much to the Black women in my life. And I get that you're exhausted. And so I want you to take care of yourself and do what you need to do for you. And the people who love you and hold you up, we'll keep doing that. I know you have people in your life who love you and support you, and we're going to be right here with you. And so, thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you. I appreciate you, right? And that's how I sustain things, because I have people like you in my life, right? And so people got to take a peek into what my relationships with my friends look like, because I don't normally have my like close friends, on my shows or whatever. So, people watching know, this is what friendship is. This is intimacy. This is intensity. This is connection. This is love. This is spanning over years, right? And loyalty and all those kinds of things. And I can only do that in this space with you, right? I can only I know when you ask that question, I know exactly why you asked it, because I needed to have that moment. And that's friendship. That's knowing someone, right? I wish more people had these kinds of friendships and relationships and
I do
connections
too.
and loves,
I
right?
do
Like
too.
we
Mhm.
need it. And I'm so grateful for you all the time. Like I'm always grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you too.
And it's why I know I'm blessed and highly favored, as your people would say. Because I don't believe in
You
coincidence.
absolutely are.
I don't believe in coincidence. Like we
Yeah.
came into each other's lives for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And so but I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on today. This was a very important conversation. I'm gonna there's a bunch of clips in there that I'm gonna put up because I just think that they're really great kind of doses of things. You shared so much, and I think that the audience really enjoyed your perspective and enjoyed you being here.
I can't
And
see you all. I'm not ignoring
it's
anybody.
okay.
It's just, I love you all. I can't see the comments.
They have definitely appreciated you. You are always welcome on my show. You know that. I'll kick somebody else off if you say that you want to do it. That's the kind of friendship we have. I tell you, ain't nobody coming before this, man. Stop it. But as y'all can see why now. This when we talk about the great loves of our life, people always say, "Oh, the love of my life," and they make it, into this whole romantic kind of thing. It's like, no, we have loves in our lives. We have loves of our lives.
Absolutely.
And Patrick is one of the loves of my life, and I'm honored.
Vice versa.
So we are here. So I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much again for being here. Everybody go order Love Again. Because it's a great book.
I don't think you can't find it anymore.
Oh, you can't find it anymore? Oh,
if you hit me, I can send you a copy.
Yeah, send please. And where can people follow you? We want them to follow you on socials.
Yeah, I'm across everywhere. I'm on Threads, which is really cool. I'm not on Twitter because I can't.
Well, what's your name on there though?
What is?
I think it's Pat D. Schaefer, is it?
Yeah, PATDSHAF. That's my thing.
Find him.
I'm on Facebook at Patrick D. Schaefer. I'm on Instagram at Pat D. Schaefer too. So hit me up. I love to connect. I love being I want to be in community with people you're in community with.
Yeah, no, I have a great community that, in this particular space, we really are about that love revolution. We are really about that. Like we want a better world. And that's why I've been able to cultivate this wonderful community. And and I know they would love to support you and follow along.
And I want to follow you all too.
Because you're doing some amazing things in the world. And the next time you come on, we'll be sharing about the next step of your, the next chapter of your life and what you're doing. So, all right. Thank you so much, sweetheart. All right. Thank you all so much for being with us in this special episode. I think it was a very important conversation to have, given the tensions of things. See, that's what I do. When Mike Brown was killed in 2014, right after Eric Garner had been killed, right after Trayvon Martin had been killed and Rekia Boyd had been killed, there were tensions that were rising amongst our people. And when I organized the National Moment of Silence, the goal was to get people to meet with others and be in community and console each other and to be together in that kind of harmony. Because that's what I do. And I wanted to be able to have this kind of conversation and give people a space to kind of come in and hear from me and one of the smartest people that I know. One of the people, you see why I love him. You see why he is my friend. And so I'm honored that he came to share space and to share his wisdom. And you see how long we can be friends, and we have two different, spiritual and faith, stances, right? Because it's possible. We move beyond the issue, as he said. You are more important than the issue. And that's how I feel about y'all. Y'all are more important than anything that we are facing in this world, because you're human beings. And I love you. You guys know that I love you. I love you with the love of our ancestors and everything that they survived for us to be here and be together in this moment. I love you with the love of our hope, right? We still have to believe. We still have to wake up every day. I love you all with the love of liberation. And remember, like I always tell y'all, we have to say, especially right now, I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. And if we all come together and we manifest this and we say it and we believe it deep in our hearts and we put it into practice, we will win. And I appreciate you all coming. I believe I'm going to be back on Tuesday, hopefully with Dr. Hall. I'm trying to get another brother that I think will also be a really great conversation to come on. So stay posted for that. You know, I'm again, people talk about, oh, you hate Black men. No, actually, I am in community with amazing brothers, and I want to share them with you. And I want to share, and I want us to build, and I want us to continue to grow and model what that looks like for people. They always say the man hater, the men hating feminists are the biggest lover girls. And now you can see this is how I am with the men in my life. I'm all smiles and blushing and love and intensity and intimacy and all those things. So, you know, we'll see what happens. All right, everybody, take care. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate you so much.